Although technically I never said I would do physical violence. I said that in order to get one would need to perform an act of physical violence.
No, understood.
Compañeros, welcome to another edition of the Secret Data Partners podcast. And it's nice to have Kevin Fiesel with us. He's repping the Bills, I see. He's got the team shirt on. Hoping for big things this weekend.
Oh, I am, yes.
Eugene, it's nice to see you again, sir.
Yep. Yep.
So, compañeros, welcome to episode 214. So, Amanda and I were arguing about this number just a minute ago. Well, arguing is a strong word. Because she's like, oh, we're going to do episode 114. And I'm like, no, 241. And then we actually looked at the number, 214. So we have all our numbers straight here. So 214. So we're gonna jump way back into the technical today, and we're gonna talk about SOS scheduler yield. And I have an experience that I want to share, talk through it a little bit, and of course get your insights here. So we are looking forward to that. So let's see. Before we do so, let's see if I clicked all the buttons. And I think everyone can hear me. I'm not hearing anybody scream just yet. So let's see. We have, okay, so our show notes for today's episode are going to be at secretdatapartners.com/ I'm going to say SOS. And, or episode, or secretdatapartners.com/ 214. Okay, let's see. We also have a couple of compañero shout-outs. So it's been a little slow, admittedly. Oh, and I should say, you'll forgive me, we had our episode last week. It's still January, so hopefully you're not too tired of hearing it. Happy New Year, everybody. If you're just recently tuning in, we hope that... So the new year got off to an auspicious start for most of us, but here's hoping that the new year goes a little bit better. So I don't have any sequel in the news unless you gentlemen have a tidbit of information that we need to pass along.
Did you talk about Patch Tuesday and the security update?
You know what? Okay, so that came out afterwards. So there is. So you're talking about the SQL Server. There's the extended events patch that was pushed that ended up in Patch Tuesday. That's fair. We should probably talk about that, although I think it's for most folks, if they didn't know about it, it's probably too late. Their Windows folks have pushed it out already.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. So now here's why I didn't think it was too bad, and maybe you'll correct me if I'm wrong, because I was reading it and it was, if you have extended events, you're in an older version, and you have a specific extended event running. Right? Not the default. So you had to set up this extended event. Only then did you have an issue. So I felt like it was somewhat, you reduced your surface chance unless you were doing a whole bunch of extended events, which in theory, I haven't seen a ton of people just doing that, have a whole bunch of them running.
Maybe, but the thing is, we don't know yet what that event is. We don't know exactly what the details are around what could allow for remote code execution.
Gotcha.
So given the information that we have today, yeah, I'd say probably not worth panicking about. But until it's patched long enough and they're willing to say this is what it actually was about, it's
fair.
hard to really ascertain, yeah, this wasn't too big of a deal, or oh, guess we dodged a bullet here.
Right. Now, in fairness, right, what they didn't say, or what I read into it, and maybe is not there, is I made an assumption this was not the system health event. Right? This was an event that you had to create a secondary event. So if this is one of the the default event, right? Now then, yes, everybody is susceptible because in theory it's there by default, right? Like it is part of the system, and would be needed. So the other piece was that this was ultimately for SQL Server 2012, right? This is all of them.
All of them. Yep.
Okay. Well then,
So there's a GDR on every latest CU of SQL Server 2012, 14, 16, 17, and 19.
got you. Okay.
There's an open question about whether 2008, 2008 R2 are affected, because both of those had extended events as well.
As well.
Not the same set. You know, we've seen them grow over time. So clearly it was something that was at least in the platform since 2012. So it couldn't have been one of the events that was added post 2012,
Right.
unless it was backported in. But don't know if it was in 2008 or R2. And those are past the expiration date, so it's kind of a
Yeah.
good new version.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be enough to convince customers at this point. If they haven't moved from 2008, it's going to take the sync shipping. For them to be like, oh yeah, maybe we should migrate. So the other big news there, I guess the other piece there is that Windows, or Microsoft, I should say, pushed that out in the Windows OS patches. So normally the other CUs are separate; they don't come in. You have to specifically, pull down the SQL Server ones. These are available. So obviously they felt like it was important enough that they wanted to go ahead and make sure people got in. So if you've been doing your patches, it's probably there. But again, probably worth checking as well, right? Okay, so thank you for that. I was thinking that this was, for some reason I had in my mind that this was just for the older versions of SQL Server. So that's fair. Now I have a couple of servers I need to go check, which I'll do after this. Okay.
Go
ahead.
Carlos is done recording.
I'm sorry?
You have until Carlos is done recording to exploit any systems he does.
That's right.
And unfortunately, we switched to a live stream so they can see this as we're doing it.
Oh boy! So now I know who the real compañeros are and those who are out to get me. The saboteurs.
Well, we're on Twitch, so this is the equivalent of stream sniping, right? So you'd have people who play games like Fortnite or whatever, and people watching their streams, if they're a big enough streamer, would go into the game and take advantage of that information to try and snipe them. So, same issue here.
Interesting. Okay,
Yep.
I guess I don't watch enough game streaming to.
Go talk to your kids; they'll tell you all about it.
There you go. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so we do have a couple of shout outs for today. So one, Kara. And I meant to pull up, let's see if I can find it really quick. Oh, here we go. So she had an interesting post on on LinkedIn that I found funny. So she posted up, and Eugene chimed in here as well. So now this is Bart Simpson, but it's this idea of, hey, I've got cool names for my services like Greengrass and Beanstalk, and then sometime later. It's like, now I name my services after what they are actually, I name my services after what they actually are, so people understand what they do. So that was kind of funny. So thanks, Kara, for giving us a little shout out. So we got a follow from SQL Nikons, the Big Doug in Elon College. So Doug always has a special place in my heart. I'm sure I've told this before. So Doug works at Elon, now it's university, but that's where I grew up. In fact, my formative years were spent about 3 or 4 miles down from Elon University. So anyway, and we were joking. So the elementary school that I went to actually used to be on the campus of Elon as they were growing. And so they moved it, and I haven't seen Doug in a little while, obviously with COVID and whatnot, but he's told me that he's kept a brick from the Elon Elementary School that he's going to bring me one day. So, I have a piece of my history. Anyway.
Throw it right through the window.
Okay, and then Andy Levy. So I'm not sure if Andy's here today. He hasn't chimed in just yet, but he missed last week, and I know he has a stand-up now at this time. So talk about live streaming information. So I'm not sure if Andy's stand-up is over or not, but we missed you last week, and hopefully we can connect again in the future.
Not just a troll about the Giants.
Not just yes, that's true. I think Kevin had a little smack that he wanted to talk.
No smack. No smack. I have no dislike of the Giants. I have wide right is okay in my heart. I'm okay.
Oh.
It took a couple decades, 3 decades.
So can
I'm okay
I?
with
So,
it.
so in his defense, although it's can I say 4 in a row wasn't quite enough for the Bills?
I'm looking forward to 5 victories in a row, 5 Super Bowl wins in a row, starting this year. We're gonna see.
Josh Allen's going to take him to the promised land, huh?
17 straight Super Bowls. I'll be okay with it.
Oh
I'm all right
man,
with
so we digress. Eugene's over here like, your sports time is up,
Yeah,
right?
I have no idea. Yeah, right. I like the Steelers just because it's the state religion here in Pittsburgh. That's about it. So
Yes. You'll forgive me. This is supposed to be a technology podcast, but I have always looked up to the Steelers just in terms of. So I'm an NFC guy, right? So for those of you who follow football, there are 2 conferences, AFC, NFC. So Pittsburgh is in the AFC, the other conference, but I've liked them just because they don't get crazy. Like they have an 8-8 season, they don't fire their coach, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah,
And-
that's reasonable.
And I have liked that about the Steelers, even though I'm not a huge Ben Roethlisberger fan. But
Sure.
okay, so we digress. We will move on from sports. We do
digress.
actually have a few technology bits to talk about. So the 8KB, is that what they're calling it? 8 kilobyte, 8KB. Is that,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's
So
the size of a
conference-
page in SQL Server. I don't know if you knew that, Carlos.
yeah, but you say that, but I wasn't quite sure how they were. Is it really 8 kilobyte? Or they, anyway. So they're having their conference on January 27th. So they're doing.
Oh, nice.
They did one last year. So if you go to 8kb.online, you can see their information. Now I also saw that they had started a podcast. I reached out to Mark, and he brushed me off. He's like, "No, man, I'm too busy." I got this new podcast, and I'm like, Mark, I guess it's been too long. 200 episodes is too long to reach back out to you and trying to get you back on.
Right.
Gone off and started his own thing. So anyway, they'll be doing online. I know last year their focus was internals. I didn't notice that they had necessarily a certain focus this year. Let's see. Do either of you know off the top of your head?
I mean, their focus is just in general on detailed 400, 500 level.
Yeah.
sessions.
Okay, there you go. So that's kind of their take is 400, 500 level sessions.
Right. And if you're doing that high level, you tend to drift towards internals a lot of the time, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so you can check that out. And then, of course, we'd be remiss to if we didn't mention that Sequel Trail is going to be on March 18th. So we have our big news there is that we've gone from an annual conference to a quarterly event. I'm still only going to do a half day. And again, we just gave a reason why somebody would want to tune in there. But theirs is the 8K is like single track, right? You just have a couple of sessions. I think they go pretty much all day. Although the time, you may have to check the time zones because I know some of the organizers are over in the UK. So they may have some different